All right, let's talk pre-planning. It's Sunday morning. We are heading to our favorite cafe. And as some of you guys know, we have a ritual every Sunday where we go and we have brunch together with our little doggy. And what we do is we pre-plan our week. I think one of the things that we do really well with pre-planning is that we recognize that it's never something that in and of itself is a great reward. Let me give you an example. Working out can get to a point where you don't really need a reward for working out. It's just the reward in and of itself is, man, I love the feeling that I have when I work out. Pre-planning, my experience, 5 years in, probably more now, never really gets to that level. There's never a point in which you're like, I would love to take time on my Sunday and start to think about all the ways that things could go wrong in my week. On some level, it's inherently stressful because what you're doing is you're landmining. You're sweeping throughout your week and you're trying to see what could go wrong, and you're starting to get into work mode and you're thinking about work, so it can be tough. What we do instead is we make it something that's actually amazing, a glorious experience. So one of the things that we do is every Sunday that we're willing to pre-plan, we go to our favorite cafe. They have a booth reserved for us in the back, and everybody knows our name. We can bring our dog. We open our laptops, and instead of trying to rush through it, we take 2.5 leisurely hours having an amazing brunch and talking about the week and pre-planning. Now, after some years, we've tried to eliminate this brunch and just do the pre-planning.
Right.
It never works. It never works. We need to have the brunch in order to have the pre-planning. So here we are. We're coming down the final stretch from our house down the hill that leads to our cafe. I'm going to show you what that looks like to get set up at the cafe. Now, I want you to be thinking as you're watching this, what's my version of this? Okay, so this is our spot. This is Cafe Pergamino. This is where we come every single Sunday to do our pre-planning. Now, this is not that cafe because that cafe is pretty loud and not really a good place to film this. So we're going to be doing it here. The lesson that you should take away from this, lesson number 1, is make the juice worth the squeeze. Create an event around your pre-planning to make it worth spending your Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening doing this. Go to a great bar, go to a great restaurant in order to compensate for the fact that you're taking your weekend time and actually pre-planning your week. Pre-planning, it can be a bummer, because what you're doing is you're looking into the future and you're accelerating all of the lack of clarity, all of the landmines, all of the conflicts. You're basically dealing with a week or even a month of conflicts and bad planning in like one day, and sometimes in like 1 hour session. That's why we go to our favorite brunch place. We get a booth in the very back. We know the staff. We bring our dog. We give ourselves way more than enough time, 2.5 hours to just tackle these problems and have conversations back and forth. Now, pre-planning is what everybody in the world knows they need to be doing, but they don't actually do it. Now, my wife and I, Carrie, we have a pre-planning checklist. I'm going to show that to you in a second. A checklist is so essential because if you're just trying to do all this from memory, I don't know about you, but I can't do that stuff. I need to be running through a sort of delineated process. Now, this is our weekly pre-planning checklist, and the first part of the checklist is your priority review. Now, notice I've got a couple bullets here. What I'm going to be doing is opening my life map. The life map is a goal-setting map that I help clients create in our 60-day bootcamp. So I'm going to be opening that. Notice that I've linked to it very conveniently here so I don't have to go searching for it. And I'm just going to be simply asking myself what did not get done last week that needed to get done, and I'm going to reset the priorities for the coming week. In other words, what's the most important thing to do this week to get to my goals this month? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on mute, and I'm just going to sort of go through this process, and I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, so now we finished looking at last week's priorities and we've set this week's priorities. In fact, we went a little bit further and we reviewed all of our priorities all the way through the end of April 2019. And so we're in a really good place where we're really clear about what our big, what we call definite chief aim is. Definite chief aim is exactly what it sounds like. Apart from all of the chaos, what is that one thing that we need to do this week, this month, and the month after to stay on course? We've got that set up. Now, let's get into the next part, which is a calendar review. Now, let me be clear, we're reviewing the calendar for hard-edged commitments. What's the difference between a hard-edged commitment and a soft-edged commitment? Let me give you an example. So a hard-edged commitment is that I have an appointment here with Carrie Wan at 11 a.m. on Tuesday. there's a consequence from a credibility perspective and from a cost perspective even to not show up to that. So that's got a hard edge to it. Now this right here is a soft edge commitment, right? So a soft edge commitment means I want to do some deep work here, but I have some flexibility there. I could change that, right? So the difference between hard edge and soft edge means hard edge has to happen exactly at that time. If I don't have lunch at 12:30 exactly on Tuesday, does anything bad happen? Not really, right? It might eat into my lunch hour a little bit. So we want to be really clear here on what are our hard edge commitments. So what we're going to do is we're going to review the schedule for the next 10 days. Notice I didn't say 7 days. Here's what happens when you only review the schedule for 7 days is you look at your weekly schedule and you scan it and you just look from Sunday to Saturday. But what happens if there's a really nasty surprise hiding on next Sunday or next Monday? What happens is when you get to your pre-planning next Sunday, you go, oh my God, you have a Macaulay Culkin moment and you just sort of slap your face and you go, oh my God, there's something due tomorrow. So it's always important to always over review more than you think you're going to. I'm going to challenge myself to find at least one landmine, which is something that might blow up on me. I'm also going to challenge myself to look to optimize my meetings, meaning what could I cancel? What could I reschedule? And what meetings do I need to prepare for? So here we go. Let's get started with that. Okay, something just happened, so I'm going to pause and just highlight this for a second. So in my pre-planning, I found 2 landmines. The first was that during this interview, I realized that there was going to be a bed delivered right in the middle of the interview, and right now the only place to be filming that interview is right here in the common space. So that was number 1. I have to either reschedule that interview or reschedule when the bed is going to be delivered. So that's great to know, because how terrible would it have been if I was in the middle of an important interview with a very important guest and a bed was delivered? Now, the second one was more of an opportunity. So I happen to have an opening come up inside of my calendar here, and I have somebody who's scheduled outside of my calendar. I happen to know this person's in the UK, so I want to schedule them up because it would be more convenient for me and more convenient for them. Okay, I'm going to keep going, but I just wanted to take a pause and highlight that. So now what I want to be doing is I want to actually go into Asana or whatever, task manager you have. And now it's time to reconcile. But now I understand how much time is available. Now I need to go understand what kind of liabilities want to match up against that time. And then after that, I'm going to bring those 2 together and create a time budget, which is exactly my budget with my time and where I'm going to spend it on which thing to make sure that I get the biggest return. Let me show you really quick what this looks like for me. So again, I use Asana, which I absolutely love because it's just basically tasks, right? But it's tasks where I can actually collaborate with my team members so I can get things done, but I can also send them assignments to get things done. So what I'm going to go through the process is reconciling all of this stuff and just cleaning it up. That's really just the process. I'm going to clean it all up. And so by the end of this, there's going to be nothing in new. So all of today is going to be what I'm going to start on tomorrow. And then all of upcoming is going to be what's going to be coming up in the next 7 days. So that's the end result here. So what I want to do is I actually want to show you what's on my screen here. Okay, so the new tasks are cleared out. Now let's get to today, which is everything that was done and didn't get clicked off or is overdue. So I'm going to reconcile all that stuff. So that's my next thing. Okay, so there's always a question, especially with Asana users, of how to work through new and today and upcoming. So I'm just going to give you a little trick that I have. Notice that I have things that I'm not going to do today. And then I've got everything else for the rest of the week. So upcoming for me might as well just mean parentheses next 7 days. Today is today. and upcoming is next 7 days. So now let's just take this one right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark it tomorrow. Even though I don't know what day it's going to go in yet, I'm just going to mark it tomorrow and push it into upcoming. I just want today to have what I'm going to do today. Everything else is just going to get marked tomorrow, and I will deal with that in a moment. Okay, so I like where today is at right now. Now I'm going to move back into the rest of it. Just to make it simple, I'll just collapse today so I'm not even looking at it. And now what I'm looking at is for the rest of the week. So now the question is, what's the optimal arrangement for the rest of the week? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to line everything up linearly. Now there's some things here that are further out than a week or right at the week level. So I'm going to look at them and they might just need to go into later. Okay, so now I have everything in order. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through here and just first of all, just pull out anything that just doesn't feel right based on what I said my number one focus was for this week, which was to close the enrollment in my March bootcamp in a strong and decisive way. So there's going to be stuff in here that I feel is important, but isn't really central to what my champagne moment is in this week. That just means it goes into next week. It doesn't mean it never gets done. So I'm going to do that now. Now, one of the things that I like to do here is I like to use the tags here. So when I have something that's urgent, I like to tag it and put urgent on it, and then I'll push it to the very top. So this is just a way of me starting to put things in a relative order. Great. So now we're not done. Let's go back to our pre-planning worksheet and let's just follow through. Just to review, we've done our priority review. We know what our priorities are. We've scanned our hard edge commitments for the next 10 days to make sure that we know how much time we really have. Now we did an Asana update, which is our task management update, where we added all of those weekly priorities into Asana and we created new tasks for open loops, and we basically brought everything up to date. Now I want to notice that I caught something here was when I was actually reading down my list, it says add weekly priorities to Asana. And I'd actually, when I'd been brainstorming what was on my life map, there was something that I had caught here that wasn't actually on my list. So I'm actually going to go in here and I'm going to add it. Okay, so now we are going to go through the process of meeting supply with demand, right? What do I mean by supply? We've gone through and we've actually looked at your hard edge commitments. What is your supply of time? And we've looked at your task manager, which is what are the demands of the task. And now instead of pretending or fantasizing how much time I have, we really genuinely know how much time we have and what the demand is for that time. But now we're not done. We need to marry the two. So the first thing that we need to do, and this is the big mistake that people make, is they're always trying to put work first, right? And so what we need to do is we actually need to really intentionally put our lives first. So this is why on my checklist, the first thing that I ask myself is, hey, let's start allocating time for some spiritual fulfillment, social time, dates, hobbies, health. And then only after we have all the good stuff put in, then do we start filling around the edges in terms of our actual work. So let's go ahead and focus on some spiritual time and social time. Okay, so I've got that all filled in, so I feel like there's a really good mix in here. Now, let's move down and we'll actually start filling in our deep work time. So one of the things that I like to do is I like to actually put my deep work in red. So that really helps me understand what is actually the important deep work for the week and have I scheduled that time in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and look at my deep work for the week. I'm going to ask myself if I have enough time. I'm satisfied that there's a good big block of time for deep work that I can do. Again, deep work doesn't need to be the majority of the work that you do. It's usually anywhere between 5 to 15% of the work that you do. And it doesn't have to be more in order to have a huge impact. You just need to make sure that you actually have time. And I like it to not be Swiss cheese throughout my week. So you can tell I'm taking all of Tuesday and really blocking off Tuesday to have a big chance to get some running head start and get focus and clarity around my deep work. So the next one that I'm going to do is block for UUWs, which is unplanned, unwanted work. And that just simply means that you can't pack your schedule in too tight because we have a tendency to underestimate and things have a tendency to go wrong. So what I do with these little bits of time that I have is instead of scheduling them right up to your neck, I'd like to put in a little UUW time. So when I have little gaps here, I'll say UUW. What that means is that I'm going to save that time for the unplanned, unexpected things that just tend to pop up. You also have to merge your soft-edged tasks into the calendar, which simply means that we want to go in here and we want to look at all of the tasks and we want to make sure that we've actually made a period of time when we can accomplish all of these tasks. Now, the way that I do my time budget is very simple. I have two calendars. I have a hard edge calendar and a soft edge calendar. So you know there's a calendar called Demir's hard edge calendar and there's Demir's soft edge calendar. Now, the hard edge calendar is things that have to happen exactly at that time. There's no option for it to happen another time. For example, I have a cook and I have a whole team and family who are going to be eating lunch from 1 to 2. I can't just say lunch is going to be at 12:30 now. We have to plan ahead. Gym time, I have a trainer. There's a consequence if I don't make that gym time. So everything that's on this calendar layer are absolutely hard edges. They cannot move. So we're basically going to look at all of these openings and we're going to start to fill in all of these openings with what? With our tasks, with the tasks that we have for today and tomorrow and upcoming, right? So we're going to actually marry all of this in. I'm going to do one just for right now. So we'll take the first one for today. So I'll just paste this in and I put it into my soft edge calendar. Now, like I said, if you want to set your default duration for this calendar to something different, you can go to settings, calendar duration, default duration. You can put it down to whatever you want, but you could even do it down to 15 minutes. So now I'm going to do this for the rest of the appointments for today, and I'm going to see how much time I actually want to fill in. Now, what's been happening sort of seamlessly here is I've just been seeing what my inventory is, and I'm matching up my inventory with the available time, and I'm seeing that there's a shortfall. And of course, I'm not going to want to work too late into the evening. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and push some stuff into tomorrow, and it just seamlessly falls into tomorrow. So now that I've got today planned, I'm just going to move into the rest of the week. Now, it would be pretty long for me to create a task for each and every one of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at each one of these and eyeball them and say that they're each at least 15-minute tasks. So we've got 13 of those. So that's at least 3.5 hours of time that I would need to get all of these tasks done, not including the non-urgent ones. So what I'm going to do is go in here and put a nice 3.5 hour block of time. I'll call it urgent Asana work, and I'll put it here on my soft edges calendar and save it. So now I don't have to put in every single task. I can just put it in piece by piece. Okay, that's it. I'm done. So what you've witnessed here is I've done a pre-planning from top to bottom, and you can see that pretty much every single bit of my time, with the exception of a couple little gaps, most of my time here is scheduled for the week. But if I want to see just my hard edges, I can turn this schedule off, and it still looks virtually like my old calendar did. So this is a really good way to not overcrowd your calendar, but still be able to meet 100% of your supply with 100% of your demand and have your whole week completely pre-planned in a way where all I have to do now is I've just got marching orders. I just march forward. Now what I'm going to do is I do what I call bonus round, and bonus round is really easy. Bonus round, the first thing I want to do is identify at least one landmine. I share that with you. That was a landmine that I found where we had scheduled a call at the same time that a mattress was going to be delivered, so that wouldn't have worked. Number two, I'm going to step back, and this is one of my favorite parts. After all of this work that you've done, I'm going to step back and I'm just going to ask myself, is this the best way to attack the week? Plain and simple. Is this the best way to attack the week? Has this been scheduled properly? Is this a well-scheduled week?
So I'm just going to look at this here. Okay, I think the one thing, if I step back and ask, is this the best way to attack the week, is that I actually can start. I want to give myself permission to actually start the day later. I think I might convert some of these early day blocks into a little bit more personal time so that I don't burn myself out this week, because there's just a lot going on. The other thing that I could do is I could actually increase some of my nap time. Increasing your nap time is a really effective way to make sure you don't get too run down in a really busy week. Okay, now the last one is what we call the taco method, which is I take a step back and I ask myself, okay, now that I'm finished with this, let's run the taco method, which means terminate, automate, consolidate, and outsource. And these are 4 questions that I ask myself to beat up this schedule and ask myself it's the best pre-planned week that I could possibly do. The first is, can we terminate something? So what can be eliminated? What can be pushed off to make room? I'm going to terminate this work block here. I'm going to delete this. I'll give myself a bit of unstructured downtime before that workday so that I don't push myself too hard. Second question, automate. Where can we use technology or services to automate this week? Automate time-consuming tasks. Third question, what can be consolidated? Is this the most effective consolidation for the week? Actually, this is great. I caught this. I would love to get all of my calls on Wednesday or Thursday, so maybe I'll email Carrie and see if he can actually reschedule into this Wednesday block so that I don't have to do any calls. In general, I'm asking myself, how can I stay in a certain mode? Am I in talking presentation mode? Let's do that on Wednesday or Thursday. Am I in creation, accomplishing tasks, that kind of mode? Then let's do that on Monday or Tuesday. And then finally, where can we outsource? Where can we delegate? It's incredibly likely that one of my team members can do one or more of that task. I challenge myself to take at least one task and take it off of my desk and put it onto somebody else's desk, because that just breaks the seal. And that's that chip in the dam. And as soon as I've outsourced one task, 2, 3, 4 tend to follow. Again, thank you so much for following me and just seeing a little peek over the shoulder of how we pre-plan our week. Let me just leave you with sort of an inspirational thought. I love this quote by Dave Ramsey. You got to live like no one else to live like no one else. Everybody knows they should pre-plan their week. Everybody knows that if you did pre-plan your week, you'd have a drop on everybody else, the 99.9% of people who don't. And yet we don't do it. Is it comfortable? Probably not. Is it for everybody? Absolutely not. But if you want to live like no one else, this is a way that you're going to have to live like no one else. This is a sacrifice that you get to make. I hope that what we've showed you has made it a little bit more effective, a little bit more punchy, a little bit easier. Now, if you're interested in what we do, check us out at lifehackbootcamp.com. My personal email is Demir, that's DEMIR, at lifehackbootcamp.com. I would love to hear from you. Any of your comments, feedback, criticisms, follow-up questions, anything, we'd love to hear from our community. All right, team, get to pre-planning. Bye.